Hey there, folks. Welcome to Spectrum Pulse. We talk about music, movies, art, and culture. And this collection, kinda weird. It's split between a bunch of newer projects that are coming out and also a bunch of stuff in my back catalog that I'm still trying to churn through. Can't say it's gonna be for everyone's taste. I also can't say there's a lot of projects that really wowed me here or put it over the top, but hey, them's the breaks. For the meantime, let's get on the pulse. So before we go any further, if you'd like to like and subscribe, I would be extremely grateful. For these sort of larger aggregates, they really don't get a lot of traction. I'm happy whenever they do. But hey, if you guys want to get on board with that, that'd be really appreciated. Hey, I'll even share this around because, again, some of the shorts go somewhere, some of the long ones go elsewhere, trying to attract a lot of different markets. But we got 8 projects on the docket. Let's get things started with, from Destroyer, Labyrinthitis. I don't know, I've been sitting with this album for months now. I don't think it's gonna get any better for me. Kind of a shame that Dan Behar's messiest album since Trouble in Dreams and his most disco and groove-driven project ever, it's not clicking as strongly compared to his last 4. Maybe it's the wonky percussion mixing, either feeling a bit airless or blown out, or the jagged post-punk-esque guitars sparking but not really sticking. Maybe it's the compositions that meander and can't match the punch of the chillier grooves. Maybe it's because the deconstruction is internally focused this time, casting himself as a decadent, pretentious villain, a thief of inspiration stumbling through free verse, self-criticism, reveling in shambling incoherence, and piss, the glamour of a pathetic romantic who, frankly, did all this before 15 years ago. It still mostly works, it is good, but more just in pieces. From Kaitlin Butts, What Else Can She Do? This has been one of the most celebrated indie country releases in 2022. The sophomore follow-up for Butts' 2015 album, and a couple critically adored singles the past couple of years that didn't actually make this project. 6 songs and a cover of the folk song In the Pines, most likely famous in modern years from Kurt Cobain. And you know, the album's deserving of the acclaim. A lot of smoky, neo-traditional country rock that fits Butts' sharper vocal timbre, sprawling compositions accentuating the lonely, desperate ache at the core, but also pretty bleak framing that doesn't give anyone any quarter, which can get uncomfortably real fast, in collapsing relationships and family drama, addiction, and what happens when you push well-meaning people past the brink. It can feel a little bit short on some detail and momentum, feels a little bit stretched despite the shorter runtime, but you know what, for what it is, greatness cuts through. Check it out. From Second in Command, Sing Me a Song About Sacrifice. I don't know, with emo cloud rap, Second in Command is my Drain Gang, except with better vocal harmonies, rapping, and content, and this is their best album yet. Structured as a double album, it begins with a breakup where they're trying to be nice and understanding, and then it all breaks down into self-destructive substance abuse and a lot of darker impulses that they're barely restraining. It's an auto-tune soaked emo rap wallow that can feel very high school, but a bit more mature this time, self-critical without feeling self-pitying, and opens the lens broader to the environment that would enable it all. It's also their most refined in terms of production and melodic hooks, or added polish that would come with a little bit more budget or production consistency, or any guest star that can match Second's writing or focus. And the first half does better than the second, and it does run a little long, but you know what? If this is your vibe, it'll click. Give it a chance. From Rae Morris, Rachel at Fairyland. I'm not sure how many of you remember how Rae Morris' sophomore slump was a pivot for synth-pop accessibility compared to the chamber pop flair of her debut, and since it went nowhere, I'm not surprised with a label shift that she's now back to that delicately arranged theatricality. Shame that in keeping her production in-house, the lush instrumentals are stuck clashing with a lot of amateurish vocal mixing, muddy percussion, wonky effects, and some truly awful, faux quirky synths from her last album that sounds like a rough off-Broadway recording. And the lyrics, okay, the more balanced love songs are kind of sweet, but Rae Morris often overpowers her partner, wishing him dead if she dies on Table for Two, or puts forward such this wild implication of depth that's more pretentious than convincing. I mean, she's got character, she's a good singer, she's got personality. This is often her worst to date, hit and miss at best. From Regina Spektor, Home Before and After. Yeah, I'm conflicted here, and with my history with Regina Spektor, director, that's no surprise. She got John Congleton for production in her most elaborate and theatrical arrangements to date, augmenting a couple old live staples with a lighter tone but expanding the mature heft of Remember Us to life. And maybe that makes sense for yearning and searching so much, seeking thrills and inspirations and passion to ultimately find some simple answers in love and home. But the borderline oppressive bombast feels oversold without more playful spontaneity or any sense of intimacy. Fewer nuggets of sly transgressive wit, where playing for broader accessibility feels inconsistent, underwritten, and a bit trite. Becoming All Alone, it's a really pretty opener, and One Man's Prayer, Sugarman, and Coin, they all have some bite. But for all the flash, there's just less magic. Only decent, at least to me. From Metric, Formentera. For as politically charged and deconstructionist as Metric can be, the past 4 years would have given them every excuse to make a very dark, pandemic album. But in finding freedom at the limits of their control, Emily Haynes' hard-dreaming, winsome spirit has her and the band still doggedly moving forward. Not just thematically tearing free from existential despair, the crushing weight of late capitalism, and those that would pigeonhole and intentionally misunderstand their societal critique, but also for one of their most adventurous albums to date, leaning into icy, buzzed-out alternative dance and some sprawling arranged passages balanced against the jangling, bass-driven, galloping electronic rock that's their forte. Now, this does leave some songs a bit listless and overlong, fewer razor-tight bangers, but hey, when the formula is still rock solid, hard to complain, pretty great stuff, check it out. From Brent Faiyaz, Wasteland. About time I got to this. Initially there was a very strong Frank Ocean influence, but the shambling acoustics, sharper synths, and rougher percussion, alongside more homespun but lightly toxic and relatable lyricism, gave Brent Faiyaz a unique lane on his debut album and EPs. But this project is a lot like The Weeknd's Kissland in the oddly stiff opulence, overtaking meandering compositions where the messiness might be intentional, but it lacks teeth or greater insight, especially crowbarred into a clunky narrative where Brent Faiyaz flexes, does drugs, cheats on his pregnant girlfriend who then threatens suicide, and he crashes his car racing trying to stop her. I mean, he wants to explore what vice really gives someone, but it becomes a lot of its own justification across the album. The vainglorious framing wants to chastise him, but also quietly empathize. And I'm sorry, he's not as compelling as this album seems to think he is. Hit and miss at best. From beabadoobee, Beatopia. If I just say that it's an improvement over Fake It Flowers playing in late 90s, early 2000s pop rock, leaning on dreamier guitars, balanced out with blown out crunchy riffs and some ethereal strings, but still short on grooves and strong vocals, so it's still not really for me, would that be enough? Yeah, the hooks are much tighter, they save a lot of these songs, but while beabadoobee is unearthing repressed pain and misspent teenage relationships and depression, there's just this capricious disposability in how she treats them that really rubbed me the wrong way. It might be a coping mechanism all the way down, and there's nothing wrong with wanting to be alone when it's not working, but this dreamy, blissful vibe isn't connecting for it. Also might be a bad sign that my favorite song, Pictures of Us, is a Matt Healy of the 1975 co-write, followed by the Pink Pantherist collab. Take that as you will. It's good, but not great. So yeah, that covers everything. Once again, thanks a lot for watching. If you'd like to like and subscribe, I'd be very grateful. Again, I think I've got another solo review coming out soon. It's one that's been long in the making, mostly because the album is long as balls, but I'm trying to get through to that even as the influx of projects continues to cascade in, and if there's another project that is worthy of a lot of critical acclaim, or just manages to piss me off to no end, we might get one of those longer standalone reviews for those too. Again, I'm trying to split the difference here. Thus far, it seems to be working, as far as I can tell. Beyond that, anything else I might be able to do to improve my presentation, I'm all ears. And if you guys want to get involved in my scheduling process, get albums onto my schedule, or hell, just find a way to argue with me on my Discord server, link to my Patreon is right over there. Until then, I'm Mark, you're watching On the Pulse on Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.